let's go to the AAC, which if you saw today, the favorite is obviously Houston here, who do you think they locked up a 1 seed today?
I think so. Big road win. The worst they can have is 3 losses. I mean, as long as they don't dump one to like a quad 4 game in this tournament, I think they're stuck on the one line. And there's just not a lot of teams like right around there to pass them. So I think they're going to be a 1.
Yep. Well, Houston is clearly the favorite. Let me pull up updated odds. Houston's minus 300. Memphis, the 2 seeds, plus 450. Cincinnati is 12-1. Tulane 20-1. Wichita State 30-1. Temple 30-1. UCF 40-1. And then you're down into the dregs. South Florida, SMU, who is awful. Tulsa's awful. ECU. I mean, a lot of injuries in this conference that we can talk about throughout. So let's just start with the top 2. So Houston's minus 300 and Memphis is plus 450. I generally end up, I think I cashed on Memphis 1 year, came up short the other. I generally I play Memphis every time they play Houston. They're now 7-0 against the spread in the regular season of the past 4 years, 8-1 if you include conference tournaments. It's very similar to why I played Kentucky against Tennessee both times this year as a dog. Like, there's just so much talent, and then they can create. There's just so many athletes all over that it kind of disrupts what Houston can do defensively. Memphis just matches up really well with them. They're not afraid, and they just have dudes. I think they're a top 20 team. So if Memphis got to the final and I had a plus 340 in my pocket, I'd feel pretty damn good. And know that I have a puncher's chance. I mean, even they played Houston at Houston within 8 without Kendrick Davis, which should tell you something. But if you look at Memphis, and someone asked me today, how good is Memphis? I said that I have them top 20, right around 20th, and they can beat anybody in this field. They also could lose to anybody. So if you look, I assume UCF is going to get by SMU, and UCF and Memphis had some wars this year. And I think this could be an opportunity for UCF to potentially, I mean, Memphis beat them by 1 at home and then lost. And again, they probably should have won in double overtime at UCF. UCF has a potential lottery pick in Taylor Hendricks, who, if you haven't seen, he's awesome freshman. Darius Johnson, their point guard, was hurt for some time. He's come back, and they've lost just a ton of close games. Like, they lost to Temple in overtime. They lost to Memphis by 1. They lost to Cincy by 2. They lost to Temple by 2. But the talent is there. I'm a bit afraid of that. Do I trust Memphis to get by that matchup? And then if you look in the bottom half, you have Wichita State, who should get their leading scorer back. He was out with an illness the past couple games. Wichita State should beat Tulsa. Tulsa's dreadful. Tulane's kind of been fading down the stretch, and they have no depth whatsoever. And I think that they're just running on fumes. But Tulane, I think, swept Memphis and put up like 95 both times. So Memphis has some potential landmines. Houston, on the other hand, up top, South Florida, ECU, I'm sorry, you're not going to pose a threat. Temple did beat Houston at Houston, then got destroyed at home. Since he played Houston tough, but the path for Houston is pretty easy to get to the championship. The question I have for you is, can Memphis avoid those landmines, or does like UCF or, does Wichita, does one of the other long shots have some value down in the bottom half? So let's start easy one. Top half, any real threat to Houston on the top half?
No, I'm not worried about it. Like you said, Temple beat them once, but Caleb Battle played in that game, and he is away from the program or whatever is going on there. Yep. Cincinnati's playing better, but Sampson has owned Cincinnati. Like the same way Memphis has been great against the spread against Houston. It doesn't matter who's been coaching Cincinnati. Cronin, Brannon, Miller, Sampson's been dominant against that team. So I'm not worried about that top half portion. I think Houston will be in the
Temple
final.
just took Cincy at home without Battle to overtime and then beat them at home. So that's not a gimme for Cincy either.
Yep. So yeah, I feel pretty confident Houston's coming out of that top half. Then the bottom is where it gets adventurous. And I think UCF 40-1 is the one that like intrigues me. They felt like the team that needed the reset button of the postseason. like the injuries that kind of wore them down through the regular season. You mentioned all the close games they played. They had Houston to like a 1-possession game in the final minute in Houston. That team has a lot of talent when they're actually healthy, and that's where they're at right now. I went into this thinking Memphis would be my pick from a value perspective, but I don't like their draw. Like you said, UCF's there. Tulane has given them so much trouble with those matchup zones. If they end up playing Tulane, even Wichita's been kind of feisty with Memphis, hasn't actually beaten them. But so, yeah, a lot of the feisty, intriguing teams are all in that bottom half with Memphis. So UCF at that number is interesting to me because I don't care about the first round game. Like the fact that they have to win when one of them is SMU, I don't, that's fine with me.
Yeah. And UCF, that the other game they played against Houston, they lost by 11. I had them plus 10.5. It was miserable. There was a flagrant at the end, but they made that was way closer than the final score. So yeah, I don't think that they would be afraid of going up against Houston if they got there, and then you probably have a hedge opportunity if you wanted it. But I agree. I think because UCF, they played SMU once. They won by 32. I'm not concerned about them. I think SMU stinks out loud. So, I think that they can cruise in that game, which is important because you're going to have to win 4 in 4 days. And then, yeah, I think if they can get by Memphis, then you have, the Tulane is, I think, fading. And yeah, I would like them over Wichita. So can they beat Memphis? They showed it. The talent's there. I think that's the look is UCF.
Yeah, they split with Memphis, lost by 1, and had that crazy double overtime game. It was like a war of attrition. Memphis kind of blew it late and let UCF back into it. So they can definitely beat them. Stucky, the question I have for you is, how much do we just continue hammering against Tulsa, who's like 4-24 against the spread this year?
It is insane. They have the only game they've won since beating Mississippi Valley State in mid-December was against Tulane in overtime. Yeah, they can. I think they covered against East Carolina, depending on the number you got, but they are just it's a miserable situation. Yeah, they play Wichita. They lost by 11, and then they lost by 4 at Wichita. What's that line going to be, like 12-ish?
Yeah.
I'll
be a shocker. I'm going to bet against the team that's covering 12% of their games and live with the results.
Yeah, and then they said Walton's going to play for Wichita, right, in the tournament?
Yeah, I don't know if Tulsa's going to get Griffin and Pritchard back, but without them, I think they're just fully hopeless because they have no shot creation. Yeah,
they're a miserable team to watch. And the other thing is they don't they should play much slower with their offense, but they don't do anything well. I guess yeah, it's just a miserable team. Yeah, I think it's UCF's the look. I also think, and just if Memphis plays Houston in the final, bet Memphis. You're going to get value in that number, and it's probably going to come down. It's every time. It'll be plus open plus. I'm going to say 8.5.
Yeah, that's too many.
And then you take it, and it'll close 7.
Would you parlay Houston with anybody? Like another? Would you take the minus 300 and throw them in with somebody out of another conference, or is that not intriguing to you?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't take Houston just because, because I don't like the matchup against them. So if they get to Memphis, and I don't think UCF will be afraid, and then they're not playing for anything. This tournament's in Fort Worth, Texas, by the way. Yeah, I would just be afraid of Memphis. So at minus 300, no, it's a pass for me.
All right, fair.